Okay, I was asked to redo my test of zone test one by being zoomed back further, so the globe zealots wouldn't think that I'm moving my camera. Um, I also was using my cell phone to kind of videotape my camera and a little bit of the, you know, showing the water coming off the end of the gutter. So if anybody really wants to see that, I can put it up. But it's like 32 minutes of me doing this test and, a little bit of another test. And then I had more cell phone footage of doing even more tests. But um, that'd be totally up to the people. But I was asked to redo this test, so I decided to redo it. um, Zoomed back a little bit further, and actually having my camera a tad bit higher than the first day, um, only because I wanted to see, what the difference would be if I had my camera a little bit up higher than being so low. Okay, because I was a little bit lower, maybe by a millimeter or two, but I'm still well above the visible water. Now, there's some things like I say when I start adding this water in here, I understand that we're going to get some, blockage, but it's after I let everything set and the water drains out is what I want to look at. All right, again, this is a long video. I'm just gonna let the natural audio start going here shortly. And like I said, if people don't, want to, take my word for this, they can do their own test. I have nothing to hide. And again, I do these mainly for myself. So really, why the hell would I lie to myself? So think about that. The way I see it too is light is being diffracted upward, which is actually redirecting our line of sight higher and higher through this different density of atmosphere or gradient, due to the heated water causing an atmospheric condition that is what we see out over the water. The higher the evaporation rate or the humidity, the more refraction we get, the more things get cut off. All right. All right. Again, think for yourself. Do your own test. Um, and hey, if you like mine, great. If not, do your own. All right. Have a good day. Warm water coming out both ends. Yeah, it's cold. It's not really cold, it's lukewarm. Water coming out both ends. I gotta go check the other end for that warmth. Actually, I just think everything gets pinched off because of this atmospheric condition, or you might even want to call it looming. You might want to call it lensing. You might even want to call it magnification. But when you magnify something, it uh, expands in all directions. But there's something else happening here too. And it may be partly because of the light reflecting off that pole at the other end. Check my water again. It's warm. I increased the flow rate of my water going into there. And here at 7 minutes, I'm going to go shut it off. Yeah. So I'm going to go turn it off and let it level out. Alright, I got my cell phone out. So I don't touch my camera at all. Obviously, nobody's seen the camera move once I reset it. The pole gets wider the farther away it goes. And it's the opposite when you're looking up a pole. Farther away it goes, it gets skinnier. It's starting out skinny and getting bigger as it goes away, just like you would expect to see. But when this hits zero, I'm gonna turn it on again, and that's the only thing I'm gonna do is just turn it on. I'm gonna try not to move the camera at all. I'll put my finger on the edge of it and hit the restart button. But then I might change my water. But what I want to do is let it, I'm going to go a little longer time this time. We just let it, do like 13 minutes or however long these videos are for. Alright, I don't have water draining out the end of the gutter no more, so it's pretty much leveled itself out. I got a little bit draining out the other end, not much. But we'll let her drain. Like I said, I'm going to turn the camera on again. And we'll see what happens. Sit here. I can sit down. He says, thinks that I may have touched my camera, but I did not touch my camera. Let me see if I can grab this one. 4x4. Use it to hold my camera, my cell phone camera. I didn't let that water get really hot inside there. It was kind of mixing with the cold water or the lukewarm water. Alright, I'm down to 1 minute and 20 seconds. Show you. Let me see. I'm going to start it up in a minute. Okay. When it hits the 0 mark, I'll start it back up again. I should have used my P1000. I have a remote for it that I could have just used the remote to start it again, but I think I can turn it on again without moving the camera much. Five, four, three. Turn it back on again. Okay. And maybe I'll change my water here. I know I know people hate watching long observations too. That's what kind of shoots you down in the long run, because people are like, yeah, it is boring. Yeah, it's boring, all right. That's pretty cool. Gotta admit that. I want to say that Heath Carmody is doing some really good work on this upward refraction, how the light is bending upward, which is cutting off the lower portions of objects. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description or in a comment because I do believe that, Heath's work is really good. And, he's using a, computer generated uh, imaging to recreate, um, what we see with our eyes. And to me, he's hitting it right on the nail. I mean, he's banging that nail in deep.
And there's no more water draining out. So obviously, the warmer water did create an issue. Um, how about we do the cold water? Let's do cold water.
All right, like I said, if people don't, you know, like the way I'm doing this test, feel free to do it yourself. The gutter is 32 and a half feet long. I did set my camera back more like 3 feet on this test. Again, people ask me to redo it, zoomed back a little bit further, so they could really see what happened. Because when I was zoomed in fully, everything dropped below the viewing height of the camera, or actually within the viewing line of sight of the camera. Um, so in turn, I wanted to do it on a little further back. But, I mean, you can see all kinds of different effects that are occurring. And it's up to you to decide for yourself what you see. I'm not out here to make you believe shit.
All right, applying the cold water. All right, I'm applying the cold water. You see my hose down there. See the water draining out the end. And again, I put my hose in the middle, pretty close to the middle. A little more my end than it is in the very center, but it's okay. But, I already see it. Well, but we got to realize too that the water's getting higher in the center and working both directions, so I am creating a hump. But once we turn this water off and the water gets to that colder temperature, we'll see what happens when we let her all drain.
Alright, I like seeing this reaction when I start adding in the cold water to see the difference that it does make. Again, while I'm adding the water, you definitely will see how it does vanish. I don't know if it's because it's pushing that cold, warmer water upward, or it doesn't quite vanish, but it's almost like the object is kind of see-through. Um, Again, I'm sure that it's kind of pushing out that hotter, warmer air upward and outward because the water is being put in, pretty much in the center of the gutter. So it's pushing that hot, warmer water out both ends. So we are going to get a different reaction out of it. Somebody said, physics teachers should be doing this in class or whatever. And I do agree, but I very much doubt the physics teacher is going to show people that, refraction is more of a, upward cutoff of the horizon, not a downward show of the horizon. Again, I appreciated that comment too.
The globe people aren't going to like this, but oh well, I can't make anybody like what I do. Can't make them watch my observations, can't make them do anything. But they don't see fit.
As you see, the object is coming back into view, even though, you know, I'm running the water into the gutter, and you know, it is causing a higher spot in the middle of the gutter with water in it. Of course, I would expect it to, but again, by changing that air temperature, changing the gradient of the air, just like our atmosphere, just like what we'd have over the water, whether the water is cold or whether the air is hot, I think vice versa, they'll both equal out to the same effect. In other words, if your water is hotter than the air, you're going to wind up with this effect, or if your air is hotter than the water, you're going to wind up with this effect. So, you know, either way, you know, you're causing this upward light bending, which is cutting off the lower portions of objects at a much farther rate than what it should be. Because on clear days of visibility, folks, I see objects plain as day, and you can't tell me it's a mirage.
I'm going to shut the water off.
These tests are optical visual proofs of what occurred. Again, you know, if people don't want to accept my little test, let them test them themselves and see what they come up with. Again, I have nothing to hide, and I do these for myself. I'm not out to lie to anybody or lie to myself of what I'm seeing. This is truth. This is what I see out over the open water.
And we'll wait to see what happens.
Now I shut off the water, and I'm waiting for it to drain and kind of equalize in temperature. But again, I know I'm going to have a reaction, or, you know, an effect that occurs. Same way that I do on other days out over the open water doing live experiments or live tests.
I did get a little different perspective this time of it.
Compared to the first test, yes, I did get a little bit of different perspective. Again, I wasn't zoomed completely in on it. So the displacement or the redirection of the vision, the bending of the light, did give you a little different perspective of this test compared to the first one. All right. So I hope everybody understands that part of it. And again, I'm waiting for this thing to finish draining out both ends of it.
And the water's almost done dripping off this edge here. And we're back to seeing the boat pretty much. I do think my camera is a little higher than it was the other day. That's okay. I know didn't want to have somebody say that I'm underneath the gutter. And we're back to almost normal again, folks. down to 2 minutes.
Now I see the way that this glare, the light coming off the water, is actually helping in causing this upward light refraction, which again is cutting off more of that boat. Um, this is, to me, this is just what I see out on the water. Being that I've done so many observations of boats out there, these are the same optical effects that I observe. All right, if you made it this far through the video, again, I know that these are long and these can be very boring. And that's one of the things I say later on in part of the more testing that I did this day. Um, I really try to work on, just creating these optical effects with the different air temperature, water temperature, and everything. But you got to realize too that, this gutter is in the sunlight. So even that sunlight is absorbing some heat. Um, and it is also causing some light reflecting back into the gutter, which is also causing optical effects. And it's exactly like what we see over the water, or like what I see over the water. I've done so many observations of boats over the water. I actually love doing it, but I'm at the point where I'm zooming out to a bird rack or a beacon light that's 11.22 miles out, at a camera height of 28 inches off the water. There's no way if Earth was a globe that I would be able to see that. And the amount of refraction, downward refraction, in other words, the light would have to be bending down over the curve, missing all the hump and bump and everything, and then laying it flat back out in front of me. I don't see that happening. The possibilities of that happening are very little compared to the possibilities of this light being bent upward is more of a possibility. It's more of a theory than this other way around that science has gotten us to believe in. So again, think for yourself. Do your own test. Don't believe me. And test things for yourself, folks. That's all I can say. Test things for yourself.